Picture yourself weaving through the sun-scorched streets of ancient Rome, your sandals slapping against uneven cobblestones, the air thick with a tang of sweat smoke and something frying that might be food or might not. Your tunic sticking to you like a bad decision, and your head's pounding from a last night's watered-down wine, the kind that promises fun but delivers regret. You're not here for a fancy banquet with gilded plates and snooty philosophers debating olive oils. No, you need something quick, something greasy, something that'll shut your stomach up before it starts a public protest. Welcome to the wild, questionable world of Roman street food, where flavour survival and a pinch of chaos collide. It's not just a meal, it's a gamble, a status flex and a testament to human stubbornness all wrapped in a fig leaf. Thermopylae, those grimy counters of culinary roulette are calling your name, promising hot stew and mystery meat. You're hungry, you're broke, and you're ready to dive in. So like this video if you're vibing with the chaos, subscribe. If you want more, and drop a comment with where you're tuning in from. Rome, Jersey, the void. Dim the lights, let the fan hum, and let's stumble into this edible adventure together. You're about to learn why Romans ate like they had a personal vendetta against their own intestines. You shuffle up to a thermopolium, Rome's answer to a drive-through minus the wheels, and any pretense of cleanliness. The stone counters chipped and stained, dotted with circular holes like a gladiator's shield after a bad day. Each hole cradles a dolium, a hefty earthenware pot bubbling with something. Stew soup. Last week's optimism. No menus here, no cutesy chalkboards with daily specials. Just a grizzled vendor in a tunic that's seen better days, probably during the Republic, stirring a ladle that's older than your landlord's grudges. The air's a symphony of sizzles, shouts, and the faint reek of garum that fermented fish sauce Romans slathered on everything like it was a personality trait. You point at a pot hoping for lentils, but you're just as likely to get a sausage that's more mystery than meat. Fried cheese balls glisten squeaking between your teeth, while a dubious pork link dares you to ask questions. Hygiene laughable. The spoon's been through 2 civil wars and the counter's a petri dish for things even Pliny wouldn't name. But it's hot, it's salty, and it's fuel for another day of dodging pigeons and tax collectors. These joints are everywhere. Pompey's got one on every block, feeding workers, poets, and confused Gauls trading coins for calories. It's fast, it's filling, and it might just haunt your gut later. But in Rome, that's just lunch. Keep this vibe going, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments, would you brave a thermopolium or stick to a cold onion? You're weaving through the forum now, your stomach grumbling like it's got a personal grudge against you, and the lentil stain on your toga's starting to attract flies. You don't need a full meal, just something to munch on while you half listen to some orator droning about wheat tariffs. Then you hear at the sizzle of coals and a vendor's shout cutting through the crowd. Hot chickpeas. Crunchy chickpeas, he bellows, waving a clay bowl like it's the key to eternal life. These aren't your artisanal chili lime-dusted snacks from a modern market. No, these are Cica arietinum Roman for legumes that fight back. Roasted over open flames until they're somewhere between crisp and gravel, they're dusted with salt that stings your lips and hides the taste of yesterday's bad choices. You grab a handful for a couple of coins and they're warm heavy like tiny stones that somehow smell like survival. Soldiers pop them on the march, senators sneak them during debates, kids gnaw them like they're training for a gladiator match. They're cheap, they don't spoil, and they're perfect for tossing at a heckler or into your mouth while dodging a pigeon. Romans swear they're good for your guts, your vigour, maybe even your deep thoughts. But let's be real, that's just vendor propaganda. Bite too hard and you'll hear your teeth cry for mercy. But in a city where everything's a hustle, these salty rocks are a reliable friend. Like this gritty vibe, smash that like. Button and comment where you'd snack on these Rome streets or your couch. Your stomach's settled, but now it's craving something indulgent, something that says I'm not just surviving, I'm living. You spot a vendor near the temple steps, his tray gleaming with golden spheres that shimmer like they've been kissed by the gods. Globally, he says with a sly wink, handing you one that's warm and sticky. These aren't some Renaissance fair knockoff, they're the real deal. Ricotta-like cheese mixed with flour, rolled into balls, fried crisp in sizzling oil, then drowned in honey until they're practically a crime against moderation. You bite in, and it's chaos, crisp shell, molten cheese honey that glues your fingers together and summons every bee in the forum. Too fast and the cheese burns your tongue, too slow and it drips onto your tunic, marking you as a rookie. These treats aren't for the plebs grabbing chickpeas, they're a flex for toga parties, temple festivals, or when you're trying to charm someone with a sweet tooth and bad judgment. Apicius Rome's OG foodie scribbled their recipe calling them fit for gods and lovers. The texture's a dance of crunchy and gooey, the taste a wild mix of savoury and sweet like cheesecake decided to fight dirty. Sure, they're not cheap frying cheese takes coin, but one bite and you're in culinary nirvana, or at least until you're swatting bees and rinsing your hands in a fountain. Loving this sticky mess? Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you risk the honey for a globulate? You're still licking honey off your fingers from those globulae, but now you're craving something a touch classier. Something that doesn't scream, I just wrestled a beehive. Across the bustling market, a vendor's stall catches your eye, piled high, with glossy brown dates that look like they're holding secrets. These aren't just any dates, they're Dactyli domestica, Rome's idea of a gourmet dessert, and they're calling your name. You hand over a few coins and the vendor passes you one. A sticky, squishy date pit removed stuffed to bursting with finely chopped almonds that crunch like a whispered promise. Then comes the honey-drizzled rolled or outright drowned, depending on how much you're flexing. At first glance, it's humble, the kind of sweet you'd offer your grandma to score points. But bite in, and it's a revelation chewy date, nutty snap honey that clings to your teeth like it's staking a claim. These little bombs of flavour were everywhere. Slaves snacked on dried versions, nobles flaunted them at feasts. Soldiers tucked them into pouches for battles or bribes. Festivals saw them passed around like edible currency, and if you left them in the sun too long, they'd harden into what could charitably be called dental vengeance. Nutritious shore sugar from dates, protein from nuts and honey's just fancy liquid gold. But let's be honest, you're eating them because they make you feel like you've outsmarted starvation with style, digging this sweet vibe smash that, like button and comment, would you stuff your dates with almonds or walnuts? You're feeling fancy after those stuffed dates, but now you're at a swanky Roman villa, rubbing elbows with toga-clad elites who think lentils are for losers. The host, some senator with more villas than virtues, gestures to a silver tray. And there they are, stuffed dormice, the kind of snack that screams, I have too much money and zero chill. These aren't your neighbour's chickpeas. These are plump little rodents fattened in terracotta jars called gliraria, basically mouse gyms with no escape. Stuffed with minced pork herbs and nuts, then roasted and dipped in honey, they're served with a flourish, tails still dangling like a dare. You pick one up, trying not to make eye contact with its tiny accusing face, and take a bite. The flavour nutty greasy with a honey glaze that almost makes you forget you're eating a glorified hamster. Almost. This is rich people nonsense. Ordinary folk stick to onions, but the upper crust. They're munching dormice to flex their status like serving caviar at a toga party. The Romans didn't just eat them. They regulated dormice farming, carved them into mosaics, and joked about them like they were the height of culture. To you, it's a culinary crime scene. To them, it's a delicacy like foie gras with extra moral ambiguity. You swallow, smile, and pray your stomach doesn't stage a revolt. Loving this wild ride? Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you try a dormouse or run for the hills? You're weaving through a Roman festival now, the air buzzing with laughter and the clink of coins, your stomach still reeling from that dormouse debacle. You need something comforting, something that feels like a hug from a slightly sticky aunt. A vendor's stall glows under torchlight piled with dense golden loaves that smell like nostalgia and bad decisions. These are Labium Rome's honey cakes, not your fluffy birthday sponge, but a sweet chewy brick baked on bay leaves for that extra or even trying vibe. Made from cheese flour and eggs, they're shaped into tidy rounds, baked till firm, then drenched, absolutely drowned in honey until they glisten like they've got something to prove. You grab one and it's heavy, sticky, clinging to your fingers like it's auditioning for a role in your life. The taste is a wild mix, cheesy sour sweet with honey that's less a topping and more a lifestyle. Poorer folks use barley and a splash of cheap honey. The rich toss in nuts and spices because why not flex? These cakes aren't just dessert, they're offerings to household gods, breakfast for kids, and the kind of treat you fight over at banquets. One bite and you're back to childhood, or at least someone's childhood, warm and messy. They're not pretty, but they're honest, like Rome itself. Feeling this sticky love, hit that like button and drop a comment, would you share your libum or hoard it like a greedy senator? Morning in Rome hits you like a chariot to the face. The streets are screaming, your neighbours yelling about late rent, and your head's throbbing from last night's wine that went from just one cup to, where's my sandal? You stumble out bleary-eyed, craving something to kickstart your day, but eggs or fruit? Too much effort. Instead, you reach for Rome's breakfast of champion sopium vinum stale bread soaked in wine. Picture yesterday's loaf hard as a gladiator's bicep, torn into chunks and dunked in whatever wine's left in the jug. Red-white doesn't matter as long as it's vaguely liquid. No milk, no sugar, just bread turned soggy enough to chew without losing a tooth. You toss in a pinch of herbs if you're feeling fancy, or honey if you're trying to impress the baker's daughter who's seen you eat worse. Farmers scarf it before ploughing fields, labourers gulp it before hauling bricks, philosophers munch it while pretending they're above it all. It's not gourmet, it's survival, cheap and boozy, the kind of meal that says I'm alive and that's enough. The elite sneer but secretly dunk their own fancy bread in aged vintages, smirking like they invented poverty chic. You chew the wine's tang, waking you up, and for a moment you feel ready to conquer the forum or at least make it to noon. Digging this grim start, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you try this boozy breakfast or stick to coffee? You're back in the thick of Rome's streets where the air's a heady mix of smoke, sweat and something suspiciously meaty. Your stomach's growling again, demanding something bold, something that doesn't ask questions or expect manners. A vendor's brazier crackles nearby, sending up clouds of savoury steam that could wake a coma patient. He's grilling Lucanica Rome's favourite sausage named after some far-off place called Lucania, but nobody's checking maps when their mouth's watering. These aren't your dainty cocktail franks. Lucanica's a chaotic blend of pork scraps, liver, maybe a heart or two, and bits. You're better off not naming all spiked with pepper, cumin and fennel seeds that hit like a gladiator's punch. Stuffed into an intestine casing, they're grilled until they sizzle the outside chard, just enough to mask whatever's inside. You hand over a coin, grab one hot off the coals and bite in greasy, spicy chewy, with a flavour that's equal parts thrill and regret. Street vendors sling them at Thermopylae, soldiers stuff them in pouches, kids beg for them until they learn better. Quality a gamble. The Emperor's Feast might get finely spiced ones, but this street version could hide Donkey Dog or just vibes. No fridge, no problem smoke them, and they last longer than your average grudge. It's food, it's fuel, it's a self-defense weapon in a pinch. Loving this meaty madness. Hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you trust a Lucanica or stick to something less mysterious? The sun's climbing and you're still hungry, but you're not in the mood for another round of mystery meat roulette. You spot a vendor flipping something flat and vaguely edible over a flickering fire, Lagana Rome's so-called pancakes, though calling them that feels like an insult to breakfast. These are no fluffy stacks dripping with syrup, no Instagram-worthy brunch vibes. Picture spelt flour, eggs and milk mixed into a batter poured into a pan that's seen better days, and cooked until it's just shy of a roofing tile. If you're lucky, there's a drizzle of honey or a sprinkle of poppy seeds. If not, you're chewing a disc of pure, unseasoned regret. You bite in, and it's dense tough, like it's daring your teeth to give up first. Romans eat these hot or cold, sweet or savoury at festivals, funerals, or just because they're too broke for anything else. They're cheap, quick, and versatile enough to pair with wine, because in Rome everything pairs with wine. Farmers scarf them before dawn. Mourners munch them graveside, and you're just hoping for a crispy edge to justify this choice. It's not a meal to love, but one to endure, a reminder that in Rome survival often trumps flavour. Still sometimes the honey caramelizes just right and you think, this ain't half bad. That's the Roman pancake's secret. It sets the bar so low any joy feels like a win. Vibing with this gritty snack. Smash like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments Lagana or modern pancakes. You're wandering Rome's docks where the Tiber's fishy stink mixes with the sizzle of oil and salt, and your nose drags you toward a rickety stall like a moth to a flame. The vendor's tray is piled with crispy golden bits that glint under the sun-fried fish parts, Rome's grittiest snack served straight from the sea to your questionable life choices. These aren't neat fillets or sushi-grade cuts. We're talking heads, tails, fins, and whatever else didn't make it to a senator's banquet. Anchovies, sardines. Maybe some mystery critter that flopped into the net tossed whole into hot oil, dusted with flour or street grit who's checking and fried till they crunch like autumn leaves. You grab a handful wrapped in a fig leaf because napkins are for suckers and pop one in your mouth. It's salty, oily with a fishy kick that lingers like a bad house guest. Kids munch them like candy dock workers buy them by the fistful, and you're just hoping you don't choke on a spine. Nutritious your protein, omega-3s and calcium from those bones, you're definitely crunching. Thermopylae sling them, market stalls hawk them, and nobody asks too many questions if they're crispy enough. It's not elegant, but it's honest fat, salt and sea in every bite, telling your stomach to shut up and your dignity to take a hike. Digging this briny vibe, smash that like button, subscribe and comment. Would you crunch these fish bits or stick to something less toothy? You're stuffed from those fishy bites, but now you're craving something sweet. something that feels like you're making marginally better decisions. In the market's chaos, a vendor's stall beckons with lumpy brownish mounds that look like nature's attempt at dessert. These are fig cakes. Rome's answer to "we've got too many figs and not enough time." Ripe figs, soft and syrupy, get smashed into a paste sometimes mixed with nuts, or a pinch of flour then shaped into discs that scream, "I'm trying my best." No bakery display case here, just a humble snack that's half fruit, half survival. You grab one and it's sticky chewy with a texture that's less cake and more, "did I just eat glue?" Best case it's rich and sweet, like summer in your mouth. Worst case it's been baking in the sun and it tastes like regret with a side of fermentation. A drizzle of honey helps, or sesame seeds for crunch, but don't expect finesse. Farmers tote them to fields, philosophers nibble them mid-debate, and festival crowds scarf them like ancient granola bars. They're cheap, durable, and perfect for offerings to gods or that neighbour you're dodging. Not glamorous, but reliable like a friend who shows up with no drama. In Rome, where desserts either stick to your hands or scurry away fig cakes, are the quiet heroes you didn't know you needed. Loving this humble treat? Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments figs smash or pass. You're still picking fig seeds out of your teeth, wandering Rome's crowded streets when a whiff of something warm and suspiciously dairy hits you. At a thermopolium counter, a vendor's frying up cheese snacks, little discs that promise comfort but might deliver chaos. These aren't your stretchy mozzarella sticks, think soft ricotta-like curds mashed with flour, or semolina shaped into patties and sizzled in oil until they're golden and beckoning. You grab one hot enough to burn your fingers and bite in. Fresh, it's heavenly crispy outside, gooey inside, with a savoury tang that feels like a warm blanket for your soul. Let it cool too long though, and it's like gnawing a sandal with attitude. Some come sweetened with honey, others spiked with herbs for a punchy kick, and the boldest have nuts or dried fruit tossed in like someone tripped and dropped their trail mix into the batter. Then there's the aged cheese option, hard pungent, the kind of fragrant that clears a room faster than a tax collector. Romans love these snacks. Soldiers munch them on marches. Festival goers trade them like gossip, and they're gifted at Saturnalia, because nothing says I care like dairy that could double as a doorstop. They're cheap filling and just stable enough to survive a Roman summer, but one wrong bite, and you're questioning your life choices. Digging this cheesy gamble, smash that like button, subscribe and comment. Would you go for the fried patty or risk the aged block? You're back at the thermopolium, your cheese snack barely settled when the vendor sloshes a brownish liquid over a pile of fried nuts, and the smell hits you like a chariot crash, fishy, salty and loud. This is Garum Rome's obsession, the fermented fish sauce that's less a condiment and more a cult. Picture fish guts, heads, tails, innards stuffed into clay pots with salt left to fester under the sun until they turn into a pungent, oily liquid that could wake a corpse. It's not subtle. It's a flavour bomb that Romans splash on everything: bread, nuts, cheese, probably their laundry for all you know. You dip a crust of bread in it, and it's intense, salty umami with a fishy edge that lingers like a bad rumour. There's no light drizzle here. It's all or nothing. Garum's got clout too fancy versions aged like fine wine for emperors, cheaper stuff for plebs, and labels boasting pure origins like it's artisanal craft beer. The smell's so vile, production's banned inside city limits, but once bottled it's liquid gold. Poets praise it, cooks swear by it, and you're either all in or running for the hills. It's not just taste, it's Rome's soul slathered on snacks like a dare to live dangerously. Feeling this fishy vibe, hit like, subscribe and tell me in the comments garum on your phrase yay or nay. You're elbowing through a Roman marketplace, the air thick with haggling, and the sharp crackle of coals when a warm toasty scent pulls you like a magnet. A vendor's roasting nuts, almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, maybe a few pricey pine nuts for the toga-wearing flexers, and the smell's pure temptation like a campfire with better PR. You toss a coin and he scoops a handful into a scrap of papyrus still scribbled with someone's grocery list or bad poetry. These aren't your holiday-spiced pecans. They're lightly charred, salted, to sting, sometimes kissed with honey or herbs if the vendor's feeling extra. You pop one, and it's crunchy bliss, simple satisfying, like Rome decided to bottle joy and sell it by the fistful. Philosophers munch the mid-rant gladiators down them for a protein hit, and party drunks lob them like tiny missiles aiming for mouths or mayhem. Even emperors snack on gilded versions served by nervous lackeys. Honey-coated almonds, close to candy but one wrong chomp, and your dentist is sending you hate mail. Overdo the garum-dusted ones and your gut's staging a coup. Still, they're fast, cheap and perfect for waving dramatically at passing senators while you chew. In a city of wine and chaos, street nuts are the snack that keeps you grounded or at least distracted. Nutty for this vibe, smash like, subscribe and comment. Almonds, walnuts or pine nuts for you. Morning in Rome feels like a personal attack. Your toga's on backwards, your mouth tastes like garum and regret, and last night's Saturnalia bash where you sang off key and maybe kissed someone's cousin's slave left you wrecked. You stagger to a thermopolium praying for salvation, but aspirin and coffee not invented yet. Instead, the vendor slides over Rome's hangover cure more wine-soaked bread, because why not fight fire with fire? Stale crusts dry as a tax collector's heart are dunked in cheap wine until they're just chewable, each bite a boozy slap to your senses. If that's too grim, try a raw egg swirled into spiced wine, Posco Vata a protein shake from Hades' gym, warm and slimy with a gag reflex guarantee. Feeling bold, grab a platter of olives, vinegar-soaked onions and pickled fish pungent enough to clear your sinuses or summon demons. Or maybe it's fried cabbage with cumin greasy and heavy sworn to fix you, but more likely to start a new feud with your gut. Sweet fiends go for figs with honey vinegar or peppered dates sugary enough to distract from your throbbing skull. Romans call this troubled head, and their cures are half hope, half punishment. You chew sip and mutter to Bacchus for mercy, wondering if survival's worth this stench. Hungover yet hit like, subscribe and comment which Roman cure would you choke down. Imagine you're a 9-year-old boy in Carthage 237 BCE, standing in the flickering shadows of a temple, to Baal, the air heavy with incense and the coppery tang of blood. Your father, Hamilcar Barca, looms over you not as a dad but as a general, his eyes burning with a grudge deeper than the sea. Carthage has just lost the First Punic War to Rome, a wound that's raw and festering, and Hamilcar's not the type to let it scar over quietly. He's about to sail for Iberia to rebuild an empire, and he's dragging you along not for a family vacation, but to forge you into something sharper than steel. You're led to a sacrificial altar, still warm and slick, and he makes you place your small hand on it, the blood sticking to your palm like a vow you didn't choose. Swear it, he growls, swear you'll never be a friend to Rome. Not fight, not hate, just never be their friend, a promise that's colder, heavier, because it means a lifetime of defiance. You nod your voice, barely a whisper, but it's enough. That oath sinks into you, a seed of revenge that'll grow into battle's elephants, and a name that'll haunt Rome's nightmares. You're not just Hannibal Barca anymore, you're a weapon shaped by blood and bound by hate. Feeling this epic start, smash that like button, subscribe and comment. Would you swear that oath or slip out the back door? You're a kid again, but Carthage's temples are far behind you, replaced by the dust and sweat of Iberian war camps 230s BCE. You're Hannibal, trailing your father Hamilcar through rugged hills, where soldiers sharpen swords and curse in languages you're just learning. This isn't a playground, it's your classroom, and the curriculum is war. Hamilcar's no soft coach. He's a general who sees Rome's shadow in every sunrise, and he's moulding you to strike back. You watch him crush local tribes with brutal precision, offering alliances to those who bend and steal to those who don't. At night, by flickering campfires, you soak up his lessons, how to read a battlefield like a scroll, how to turn a rival's pride into a trap. You're not swinging swords yet, but you're studying every Roman envoy who slinks in their smug faces promising peace, while their hands clutch daggers. You memorize their words, their weaknesses, and the way your father's jaw tightens when they leave. Every skirmish, every deal, every drop of blood on foreign soil etches itself into you, building a mind that's half strategist, half avenger. By the time Hamilcar dies, you're not just his son, you're his legacy, ready to carve your own path to Rome's doorstep. Dig in this gritty training montage. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you train under Hamilcar or stick to scroll reading? You're in Iberia 221 BCE, no longer the wide-eyed kid trailing your father's shadow. Hamilcar's gone dead in battle, and his dream of crushing Rome now pulses in your veins. You're Hannibal Barca, 26 years old, hardened by years of war camps and blood-soaked lessons. Your brother-in-law Hasdrubal, who took the reins after Hamilcar has just been assassinated, leaving Carthage's army in chaos. The soldiers don't look to the Senate or some perfumed elder for a leader, they look to you. You've grown up among them, shared their rations, bled in their skirmishes, and they see in your eyes the same fire that drove your father. No vote, no ceremony, just a roar of approval as they raise their swords naming you commander. You step up not to a throne, but to a battlefield, your mind already spinning with plans. Rome's treaties and borders are just lines on a map and you're ready to erase them. This isn't about power. It's about that oath you swore as a boy, the one that burns hotter than the Iberian sun. You're not just leading an army. You're unleashing a vendetta that'll make empires tremble. The soldiers chant your name and you know this is where Rome's nightmares begin. Feeling this epic rise, smash that like button, subscribe and comment. Would you lead these troops or dodge the draft? It's 219 BCE, and you're Hannibal standing before the walls of Saguntum, a city south of the Ebro River smugly allied with Rome. You're not here for diplomacy. Rome's treaty with Hasdrubal barring Carthage from crossing the Ebro is just parchment to you, and Saguntum's defiance is a spark you're ready to fan into war. Your army, a patchwork of hardened Carthaginians and fierce Iberian tribes, surrounds the city like a noose. You don't just want victory, you want a message. The siege is brutal. 8 months of starvation, bombardment and relentless assaults. You hurl stones at their walls, block their supplies, and watch their resolve crumble. When the city finally falls, you show no mercy. Survivors are slaughtered or sold, the streets run red, and Saguntum's ashes scream your name to Rome. Across the sea, the Roman Senate rages, demanding Carthage hand you over like a naughty child. Carthage shrugs and you smile war's coming and you've just lit the fuse. This isn't a skirmish. It's a declaration that Rome's not untouchable. You turn north, already dreaming of Alps and elephants ready to bring the fight to their doorstep. Digging this bold move, hit like, subscribe and tell me in the comments, would you siege Saguntum or negotiate peace? It's 218 BCE and you're Hannibal Barca staring up at the Alps' jagged peaks, insane barrier of snow, ice and death that no general in their right mind would dare cross with an army, let alone with 50,000 men, pack animals and 37 war elephants. Your officers think you've lost it, but you're not aiming for sanity. You're aiming to rewrite Rome's smug sense of safety. You've just torched Saguntum and now you're marching north from Iberia, through the Pyrenees, brushing off Celtic tribes with steel and charm. At the Rhone River you rig rafts to ferry your elephants across elephants swaying like drunk giants on flimsy platforms, a logistical nightmare that screams defiance. Then the Alps hit you like a god's fist, landslides bury gear blizzards, blind your troops and starvation gnaws at morale. Men desert elephants, plummet into ravines, and you're chiselling ice with vinegar and fire to clear paths. You rally your men, pointing to Italy's distant plains, promising plunder and revenge. 2 weeks later you stumble into the Po Valley, half your force gone frostbitten but alive and in Italy. Rome's horrified the Alps were their wall, and you just kicked it down. This isn't a march, it's a dare to the gods and Rome alike. Feeling this epic trek, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you cross the Alps or take the sea route? You're Hannibal 217 BCE, fresh off your Alpine madness, now prowling northern Italy, with a battered but loyal army. Rome's reeling from your arrival, but they're still cocky, sending Consul Gaius Flaminius with a legion to squash you like a bug. You've got other plans. You pick Lake Trasimene, a foggy valley hemmed by water and steep hills perfect for a trap. You dangle your infantry in plain sight, baiting Flaminius, while hiding your cavalry and elite troops in the misty hills. June 21st dawns and Flaminius charges blind with pride straight into your jaws. Your men erupt from the slopes, slamming the Roman flanks. Your cavalry seals the rear. It's chaos. Romans drown in the lake, trample each other, or die where they stand. Flaminius falls, hacked down mid-rally. In hours 15,000 Romans are dead, thousands captured, and you lose not one officer. Rome's streets fill with screams. Mothers weep, the Senate panics, naming a dictator to save them. You don't just win, you humiliate, proving Rome's legions aren't gods. You roam free a ghost in their backyard, and this ambush, the greatest in history, whispers your name. Hannibal's here, and he's not leaving. Digging this brutal trap. Hit like, subscribe and comment, would you spring the ambush or face Hannibal's wrath? It's 216 BCE, and you're Hannibal Barca, standing on a sun-baked plain near Cannae in southern Italy. Your army of 40,000 facing Rome's massive 80,000 strong juggernaut, led by consuls Lucius Aemilius Paulus and Gaius Terentius Varro. Rome's done playing cautious after Lake Trasimene. They want to crush you with sheer numbers, their legions gleaming like a red tide. You smile because you've already chosen the stage for their downfall. You arrange your troops in a shallow crescent, weakest Gauls and Spaniards in the centre. You crack African infantry on the flanks, and cavalry poised like wolves on the wings. The Romans charge eager to smash your centre, and you let them push your line, bending inward, luring them deeper into the trap. Then you strike your African's wheel in enveloping the Roman flanks. Your cavalry, having routed their horsemen, slams into their rear. The Romans, packed tight, can't swing their swords, can't breathe, can't escape. In one blistering August day you slaughter 50,000 to 70,000, a massacre so vast it chokes the rivers red. Rome's pride is shattered, their streets wail with grief, and your name becomes a curse. You could march on Rome, but you hold back, knowing you need more men, more siege gear. Cannae's not just a victory, it's a masterpiece, a lesson in how to break an empire's soul. Feeling this bloody triumph, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you fight at Cannae or flee the field? You're Hannibal, 216 BCE, fresh off Cannae's carnage, roaming Italy like a shadow that bleeds. Rome's legions lie broken, their confidence dust, but you don't march on their city, not yet. Carthage hesitates, sending no reinforcements, leaving you with a shrinking army of loyal but weary men. You turn to Italy's underbelly, wooing Rome's resentful allies, Gauls, Samnites, southern cities with promises of freedom. Many join you, swelling your ranks, but it's not enough. You become a ghost striking where Rome least expects, burning crops, raiding supply lines, ambushing patrols in guerrilla-style hits that keep them sleepless. Rome under Fabius Maximus the Delayer refuses open battle, shadowing you, starving you of chances to crush them again. You still win Hardonia, Apulia, entire consular armies fall to your blade, but time's turning. Rome rebuilds trains, new legions, tightens their grip on allies. Your brother Hasdrubal tries to reinforce you crossing the Alps like you did, but Rome intercepts, slaughters his army, and tosses his severed head into your camp. The message stings you're alone. For 16 years you haunt Italy, unbeaten, untamed, keeping that boyhood oath to never bow to Rome. But without Carthage's full might, the final blow slips further away. You're a legend, but legends don't win wars alone. Digging this lone wolf saga, hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you roam with Hannibal or cut your losses? You're Hannibal Barca, 211 BCE. Still haunting Italy's fields like a spectre Rome can't shake. Cannae's triumph echoes, but the years grind on, and your army, once a roaring beast, is thinning, worn by battles and time. You've won hearts in southern Italy, cities defecting to your cause, but Carthage, your own home, turns its back. The Senate there, fat with wealth, fears your growing legend more than Rome's swords. They send no ships, no men, no siege engines to help you topple the enemy's capital. You fight on torching crops, ambushing legions, but each victory feels hollow without the muscle to end it. Rome bloodied but stubborn adapts, they raise new armies, choke your allies, and strike at your roots. Your brother Hasdrubal, desperate to aid you, mirrors your Alpine feet marching from Iberia with fresh troops. Hope flickers until Rome intercepts him at the Metaurus River. His army's crushed, and in a gut punch they hurl his severed head into your camp, a grisly message you're cut off. Alone now, you stare at the plains you've bled for your oath to never befriend Rome, burning bright but heavy. Carthage's betrayal stings worse than Rome's blades, and your dream of breaking their empire frays at the edges. You're still unbeaten, but even ghosts need allies, and yours are fading fast. Feeling this bitter isolation. Smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you keep fighting or sail home? It's 202 BCE, and you're Hannibal, called back to Carthage after 16 years of carving scars across Italy. Rome's turned the tables, invading North Africa under Scipio Africanus, a young general who studied your every move like a sacred text. Your city, the one that left you stranded, now begs you to save it. You face Scipio at Zama, with a patched-together army, veterans, raw recruits, and 80 war elephants against Rome's disciplined legions, and Numidian cavalry led by Massinissa, a traitor to your cause. You open with an elephant charge, hoping to shatter their lines, but Scipio's ready, parting his troops into corridors that funnel the beasts through, some even trampling your own men in panic. The infantry clash is fierce. Your veterans push hard, but Scipio's cavalry outflanks you, circling back to crush your rear just like you did at Cannae. The irony stabs deep. Your lines collapse and Carthage falls with them, forced to surrender their fleet, pay crippling tribute, and swear never to fight without Rome's nod. You've lost not just a battle, but the vision you swore to as a boy. Yet Rome doesn't kill you. They fear your myth too much. You stand in the dust, defeated but unbroken, knowing your name will haunt them forever, digging this final stand. Hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you charge with Hannibal or accept defeat? It's 202 BCE and you're Hannibal Barca back in Carthage after Zama's crushing defeat. But you're not broken, not yet. The city that left you to fight Rome alone now cheers you not as a loser, but as the man who nearly toppled an empire against all odds. You don't sulk. You pivot. Trading the battlefield for the Senate, you become a politician of all things, diving into Carthage's mess of corruption. Like a general storming a fortress. You slash taxes, pay off debts, and breathe life into a city gutted by war, your reforms as sharp as your old battle plans. The people love you, but Rome's watching, and they don't trust a Carthage with you at the helm. They fear your mind more than your sword, whispering accusations of conspiracy with foreign kings. The Senate, your own this time, buckles under Roman pressure, and soon you're on the run again, a hunted exile. You slip from court to court, offering your genius to anyone who'll listen, first to Antiochus III of the Seleucid Empire. He ignores your advice, loses spectacularly, and you're off again, a ghost drifting through Asia Minor, Roman envoys dogging your heels. You're in your 50s greying, but your name still sends shivers down Roman spines. You're not just a man, you're a myth, and Rome can't let you rest. Feeling this comeback kid vibe, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you reform Carthage or hit the road? It's the early 180s BCE, and you're Hannibal now in your 60s, a grey-haired shadow hiding in Bithynia, a speck of a kingdom in Asia Minor. Rome's hounds are closing in their envoys, demanding your head at every port. You're no longer commanding armies, just your own survival, but your mind's still a blade. You help King Prusias win a naval battle with a trick straight out of your playbook catapults, hurling jars of venomous snakes onto enemy ships, sowing chaos like only you can. It's vintage Hannibal, but Rome doesn't care about your snake tricks. They want you erased not just from battlefields but from history itself. Betrayal looms, word reaches you that Prusias has sold you out Roman agents creeping toward your villa. You don't run this time. You've carried a vial of poison in a ring all these years, a final middle finger to Rome's grasp. As they close in, you write one last note. Let us relieve the Romans from their long anxiety, since they think it too tedious to wait for an old man's death. You drink and it's over, not on a battlefield but alone, exiled, defiant. Rome raises Carthage, later salting its earth, but they can't bury you. Your name, your oath, your elephants, they haunt Rome's dreams forever. Feeling this last stand, hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you take the poison or keep running? Picture yourself in ancient Greece. Autumn's chill creeping through the hills between Athens and Eleusis, where torchlight dances and the air hums with chants you don't quite understand. You're a pilgrim, one of thousands trudging the sacred way. Your feet sore, your heart pounding with a mix of awe and fear. This isn't some rowdy wine-fueled bash like Dionysus parties, or a public flex like the Olympics. No, this is the Eleusinian Mysteries, the most secretive sacred rite in the Greek world. It's not just a festival, it's a soul-shaking initiation, and spilling its secrets could get you executed faster than you can say bad idea. At its heart is Demeter, goddess of the harvest, and her daughter Persephone snatched by Hades to the underworld, leaving the earth barren until a deal let her return part-time. Their story's no mere myth, it's life, death and rebirth, a cosmic truth you're here to touch. You fast bathe in the sea, carry sacred relics, and finally enter the Telesterion, a massive hall where something, maybe a reenactment, maybe a vision from a strange potion, changes you forever. Emperors like Hadrian, thinkers like Plato, they all left this place convinced death isn't the end. You're not just worshipping, you're transforming, stepping into a mystery that's outlived empires. Feeling this sacred vibe, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you dare the mysteries or keep your soul uninitiated? Now you're in ancient Thebes, Egypt, under a blazing sun where the Nile sparkles and the streets thrum with drums, flutes, and the roar of a crowd that's more alive than the gods themselves. It's the Opet Festival, a dazzling parade that's less ritual and more cosmic party, recharging the pharaoh's divine mojo and reminding everyone who's boss human and heavenly. You're shoulder to shoulder with commoners watching priests haul golden shrines of Amun-Ra, Mut and Khonsu, the Theban triad, from Karnak's colossal temple onto gilded boats called barks. These aren't just boats, they're floating thrones carried by sweating priests, or sailed down the Nile to Luxor Temple 2 kilometres away, along a sphinx-lined avenue that screams Egypt's got style. Dancers twirl, acrobats flip, and the air's thick with incense and joy. You're not just spectating, you're part of it. Feasting, drinking, dancing like the gods are watching and approving. The pharaoh himself joins, maybe merging with a moon in a secret rite, his divine mandate renewed like a celestial battery. For 11 to 27 days, depending on the king's budget, Egypt's alive, its cosmic order mat holding strong. It's not just a show, it's heaven touching earth, and you're drunk on the magic of it. Digging this divine parade. Hit like, subscribe and comment, would you join the op at Reverie or stay temple-bound? You're in Rome. December's chill nipping at your toes, but the city's ablaze with laughter, and the kind of reckless joy that only comes when rules get tossed out the window. Welcome to Saturnalia, a week-long bash honouring Saturn, god of agriculture, time and freedom, where Rome flips its rigid order upside down. Picture this, you're at the Forum, where a sacrifice kicks things off, followed by a public feast that spills into the streets. Masters serve their slaves, pouring wine with awkward grins. Senators ditch togas for loud, colourful tunics, and gambling, usually banned, is everyone's new hobby. You're rolling dice with a baker who's suddenly your boss, while a kid's crowned Lord of Misrule giggling as he orders you to dance with a broom. It's chaos, but the good kind schools, close courts shut, and works a distant memory. You swap gifts, wax candles, clay figurines, maybe a cheeky poem roasting your neighbour's bad breath. It's warm, familiar, like Christmas's rowdy ancestor. For a society built on slaves and senators, Saturnalia's a pressure valve, a fleeting dream of Saturn's golden age when all were equal. When it ends, the world snaps back slaves to chains, elites to scheming. But for now, you're just a Roman drunk on freedom and bad wine. Feeling this wild party, smash like, subscribe and comment, would you revel in Saturnalia or hide till it's over? You're in ancient Persia, standing in a courtyard where spring's first breeze carries the scent of blooming jasmine and burning cedar. It's Nowruz, the Zoroastrian New Year, marking the equinox when day and night balance like a cosmic scales. This isn't just a calendar flip, it's a rebirth, a victory of light over darkness, order over chaos, rooted in the eternal clash of Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu. You've spent weeks scrubbing your home, settling debts, purging anything that feels like last year's baggage. Now under starlight you leap over crackling bonfires shouting, "Give me your red glow, take my sickness, the flames sacred and purifying, burn away the old you." At dawn you set a Haftzin table, 7 symbols starting with S, sprouted greens for growth, garlic for protection, vinegar for wisdom. Priests in white robes chant Avestan hymns in fire temples, feeding sacred flames with fragrant wood. But it's not all solemn. You feast with family kids, clutch gifts and flutes, fill the streets with music that makes your feet itch to dance. Nowruz resets the world, your soul included, and its light's been shining through empires, Achaemenids, Sassanids and beyond. You feel alive, renewed like spring itself, digging this fiery reset. Hit like, subscribe and comment, would you jump the flames or stick to spring cleaning? You're in Athens springtime, the air buzzing with wine and wild energy, as you join a throng pouring toward the Theatre of Dionysus at the Acropolis's foot. This is the Great Dionysia, a festival for Dionysus, god of wine, fertility and sacred madness, that's less about quiet prayers and more about masks, drama, and losing yourself in the story. You're swept into a procession, dodging giant phallic statues and ivy-wreathed staffs as flutes wail and dancers spin, leading Dionysus' statue to the theatre like he's the guest of honour. Up to 15,000 people cram in, even prisoners let out to watch, because this is no mere show, it's worship, a civic duty wrapped in wine-soaked chaos. Playwrights like Aeschylus or Aristophanes compete with tragedies that rip your heart open. Think Oedipus unravelling his cursed fate, and comedies that mock politicians so sharply you're laughing through your gasps. Each performance is a ritual, a mirror to God's fate and human folly, letting you wear a mask to face truths too raw for daylight. You're not just watching, you're part of Dionysus' wild dance where civilization meets primal roar. It's messy, it's divine, and it's Athens at its rawest. Feeling this theatrical vibe, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you cheer for tragedy or comedy at the Dionysia? You're in the Persian Empire, caught in the whirl of Purim, a Jewish festival that's equal parts survival story and raucous satire celebrating the Book of Esther's tale of courage and reversal. Picture yourself in a crowded square where the Megillah's read aloud like a play, and every mention of Haman the villain plotting to wipe out the Jews gets drowned out by booze graggers, rattling like a storm, and kids in costumes shouting louder than a chariot race. Esther, a Jewish girl turned queen, risked everything to save her people, and now you're living her victory. You feast on lavish spreads, swap sweets with friends, and toss coins to the poor, but the real kicker, you're supposed to drink until you can't tell. Blessed is Mordecai, from cursed is Haman, a holy excuse to get gloriously sloshed. Beneath the laughter there's depth. God's name never appears in Esther's story yet. Divine providence hums in every plot twist, teaching you to spot miracles in the mundane. You don costumes mock Haman's downfall and dance like survival itself is sacred. Purim's not just joy, it's defiance. Laughing in death's face, proving resilience is the ultimate rebellion. Loving this wild celebration. Hit, like, subscribe and comment. Would you don a mask for Purim or keep it sober? You're in ancient Ireland. August's golden light bathing the misty hills as you climb a sacred ridge for Lugnasad, a Celtic festival that feels like the earth itself is throwing a party. Named for Lug, the shining god of light war and craftsmanship, this isn't some temple-bound ritual, it's raw-rooted in the soil, celebrating the first grain harvest and the fragile pact between humans and nature. You watch a druid slice the first sheaf of wheat, an offering to the gods, a plea for winter's mercy. The air hums with bonfires, the scent of roasted meat, and the laughter of crowds gathered for the Tailtean games, think wrestling horse races and poets dueling with words sharper than swords. Couples clasp hands for trial marriages, promising a year and a day free to part by walking away, no divine drama required. You join the feasting dance under starlight and toss offerings into sacred wells, but there's a humbling edge nature gives nature takes. Lugnasad honours Tailtiu Lug's foster mother who died clearing Ireland's fields, and every bite of bread reminds you winter's shadow looms. It's joy with a warning savour the harvest, but brace for the cold. Feeling this earthy vibe, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you race at Lugnasad or stick to the feasting? You're in ancient India winter fading into spring, and the streets explode into a kaleidoscope of colour and chaos. It's Holi, the Hindu festival, that's as wild as it is sacred. The night before, you gather around a crackling bonfire for Holika Dahan, watching an effigy of Holika burn her myth tied to Prahlada's faith in Vishnu, proving good triumphs over evil. The flames eat away ego and hatred, purifying the air with heat and hope. Come morning, you're dodging clouds of gulal, vibrant powders in red, green, blue, splashed with coloured water as drums pound and flutes wail. Rich and poor, young and old, you're all equals drenched in colour, laughing as enemies hug and strangers turn friends. It's ritual chaos tied to Krishna and Radha's playful love, where he smeared her face with colour, sparking a divine romance that's now your excuse to fling dye like a kid with a water gun. Holi's not just fun, it's renewal, the soul shaking off winter's weight, embracing spring's promise. You dance soaked and stained, knowing the colours will fade but the joy won't. It's a reminder life's fleeting but love and light endure, digging this colourful riot. Hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you throw powder or duck the dye? You're in Rome, December's frost clinging to the cobblestones, but inside the grand home of the city's top magistrate, a secret hums with feminine power. This is the Bonadea festival, a sacred rite for the good goddess, where men, senators, priests, even emperors are banned, their prying eyes and egos locked out. You're among elite Roman women led by the Vestal Virgins in a space pulsing with mystery, fertility and healing. The air's thick with incense-soft music and the clink of cups filled with wine called milk to keep things coy. Myrtle wreaths, symbols of Venus's lusty vibe, are forbidden, and offerings whisper of earth and motherhood. No man knows what happens here, and that's the point. Male historians are left guessing, their scrolls blank on the details. But in 62 BCE chaos erupted when Publius Clodius Pulcher, a reckless aristocrat, snuck in dressed as a woman chasing Julius Caesar's wife Pompeia. He was caught sparking a scandal that rocked Rome, though he slithered free with bribes. Caesar divorced Pompeia, declaring his wife must be beyond reproach, yet the festival's true power endures a rare moment, where women hold the divine, their secrets guarded by silence and strength, untouched by Rome's patriarchy. Feeling this feminine mystique, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you guard Bonadea's secrets or spill the tea? You're standing at the crossroads of ancient worlds, Greece's torchlit hills, Egypt's Nile-lit parades, Rome's chaotic streets, India's colour-drenched towns, where festivals like Eleusinian Mysteries, Opet Saturnalia, and Holi wove humanity's deepest hopes into rituals that outlasted empires. These weren't just parties, they were lifelines tying people to God's seasons and each other. From Demeter's rebirth to Amun-Ra's divine flex, from Saturn's flipped hierarchy to Krishna's playful love, each festival sang of renewal, defiance and joy in the face of life's grind. They let slaves dine with masters, women wield sacred power, and mortals touch the cosmic pulse. You see their echoes today. Christmas's gifts from Saturnalia, spring's rebirth in Nowruz, the catharsis of theatre in Dionysia. These rites weren't about dogma, but transformation, reminding you that humans, no matter the era, crave connection, meaning, and a good excuse to dance. They're proof we've always been stubborn enough to find light in the dark, whether through fire colour or a drunken song. As you reflect, you realise these festivals aren't gone. They live in every celebration that makes you feel alive. Loving this timeless vibe? Hit like, subscribe and comment which ancient festival would you revive today. You're in ancient Egypt, standing by the Nile's black fertile banks. Kemet, the black land where the air smells of lotus and resin, and transformation isn't just a dream, but a sacred art. This is Chemia, the root of alchemy, not some shady sorcery, but a divine craft blending matter and soul. You watch priests in linen robes grind pigments for temple walls, mix perfumes that linger like prayers, or embalm bodies with salts and myrrh, turning flesh into eternity. These aren't just tasks, they're rituals, every step a cosmic act to prepare the dead for rebirth. Mummification's no mere funeral. It's alchemy, purifying the body like metal in a crucible guided by spells from the Book of the Dead to refine the soul through underworld trials. At the heart stands Thoth, ibis-headed god of wisdom, his quill scratching secrets that Greeks later fuse with their Hermes birthing Hermes Trismegistus, the mythic sage of alchemy's mystic texts. To Egyptians, changing lead to gold was child's play compared to transmuting a mortal into a god. Chemia's not about profit, it's about mirroring creation itself, where every dye alloy or preserved heart whispers of life beyond the grave. Feeling this sacred science, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you mix potions for the gods or stick to scroll writing? You're in ancient Persia, where firelight flickers in a temple, and the air hums with chants to Ahura Mazda, the god of light and truth locked in eternal battle with Angra Mainyu Chaos's dark spirit. This isn't just religion, it's the moral spine of alchemy, born long before medieval labs. You see Zoroastrian priests tend sacred flames, never letting them die, because fire's not just heat, it's purification truth, a mirror to the soul. Artisans smelt copper, silver and gold, their forges holy spaces where raw ore becomes pure metal, an act of cosmic order. You read ancient texts listing minerals and plants, not just to heal bodies, but to align them with the universe's harmony. To Persians, transformations are duty matter, like the self holds a divine spark that must be freed from impurity. Smelting iron's not craft, it's a metaphor for burning away lies to reveal what's eternal. This dualism, light versus dark, shapes alchemy's heart, whispering that every flawed thing from lead to your own soul can be perfected. It's not about gold, it's about becoming divine. Later Islamic scholars will carry this flame, but here in Persia's fire temples, alchemy's moral quest begins. Digging this fiery philosophy, hit like, subscribe and comment would you tend the sacred flame or dodge the heat. You're in ancient Greece, where the air hums with ideas as sharp as a freshly honed blade, and philosophers like Empedocles and Aristotle are wrestling with the universe's secrets in open-air agora debates. Forget mystic potions, this is alchemy dressed in logic, born from the audacious notion that everything boils down to 4 elements: earth, water, air and fire. You picture Empedocles wild-eyed, declaring these are the universe's building blocks, dancing in constant flux to create all reality. Plato joins in spinning tales of perfect geometric forms, tiny invisible solids shaping matter's soul, Then Aristotle, ever the tinkerer, steps up with his 4 qualities: hot, cold, wet, dry. To him, lead's heavy and dry gold's radiant and balanced shift those qualities, and you could in theory transmute one into the other. It's not just chemistry. It's a cosmic puzzle, a quest to harmonise the world's chaos with reason. You're not mixing brews yet, but you're hooked on the idea that change isn't random, it's a code, and cracking it might just make you a god among thinkers. The Greeks don't stop at matter. They're chasing the hidden laws of existence, blending brainy swagger with a touch of divine arrogance. Feeling this philosophical fire, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you debate with Aristotle or stick to staring at the stars? You're in Alexandria, the ancient world's intellectual melting pot, where Greek logic, Egyptian ritual and Babylonian stargazing collide in a dazzling stew of ideas. It's the Ptolemaic era, and the great library's scrolls buzz with alchemical secrets, half science, half sacrament. You're trailing Maria the Jewess, a shadowy genius crafting tools like the Bain-Marie Yep, that double boiler in your kitchen, and the Tribico's a distillation rig that's pure magic to ancient eyes. She's not just boiling herbs, she's coaxing matter's essence, blending Egyptian soulcraft with Greek precision. Then there's Zosimos of Panopolis scribbling cryptic notes about visions and purification, seeing the alchemical vessel as your body, its fire as your soul's torment, its vapours as divine sparks rising. You're caught in their world, where recipes for dyes and alloys hide deeper truths about transforming the self. Hermes Trismegistus part Thoth, part Greek myth, whispers through hermetic texts, as above so below. In Alexandria, alchemy isn't just lab work, it's a mirror of the cosmos, asking if you can change lead to gold, and your soul to something eternal. You're not just experimenting, you're chasing the divine. Digging this mystic vibe, hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you tinker in Alexandria's labs or keep it theoretical? You're in 8th century Baghdad, where the Abbasid Caliphate's golden age turns the city into a buzzing hive of scholars, and alchemy is no longer just mystic whispers, it's a disciplined quest. You're shadowing Jabir ibn Hayyan, a polymath dubbed the father of chemistry, whose lab in Kufa smells of sulphur and ambition. He's poring over Greek, Persian and Indian texts, blending them with Quranic cosmology into a system that's half science, half divine poetry. Jabir's big idea: all metals are born from sulphur's fiery change and mercury's slippery flow. Not literal stuff, but principles you can balance to transmute lead to gold. You watch him distill, crystallize and filter. With tools that'll inspire labs for centuries, his methods so precise they feel like prayers. But it's not just about metals. Alchemy is a mirror for the soul, purifying it to align with God's cosmic order. Al-Razi, another giant, pushes practical potions for healing, while Avicenna debates if transmutation's even real, yet still respects the quest's moral depth. You're scribbling notes awed by their rigour, as Arabic texts preserve and expand what Egypt and Greece began, making alchemy a proto-science that'll spark Europe's labs later. It's not just tinkering, it's chasing creation's secrets. Feeling this scholarly fire, smash like, subscribe and comment. Would you experiment with Jabir or stick to his scrolls? You're in a 12th century European monastery where candlelight flickers over stone walls and the air smells of ink and molten lead. The Islamic Golden Age's alchemical texts translated in Toledo and Sicily have jolted Europe awake, and you're with friars like Albertus Magnus, half monk, half mad scientist chasing the philosopher's stone. It's not just about turning lead to gold, it's a divine code, God's blueprint for creation, hidden in matter's depths. You peer into crucibles bubbling with mercury and antimony retorts glowing like tiny hells, as monks scribble coded notes full of dragons and suns veiling their work in allegory. Roger Bacon. Another cleric mixes faith with experiments, believing alchemy unlocks nature's holy secrets. You're caught in their fervour, where labs feel like chapels and every fizzing reaction's a prayer. Pseudo-Geber's Latin texts riffing on Jabir guide your hands, while Arnold of Villanova brews elixirs to cheat death. Princes fund it, universities debate it, and you're stirring potions, half expecting angels or gold. It's not sorcery, it's sacred science, blending Arabic precision with Christian awe, chasing perfection in both metal and soul. The stone's a dream, but the quest's real and you're hooked. Digging this monkish magic, hit like, subscribe and comment. Would you hunt the philosopher's stone or keep it holy? You're in early 17th century Europe, where whispers of a secret brotherhood ripple through candlelit taverns and dusty libraries. The Rosicrucians may be real, may be myth drop, cryptic manifestos like Fama Fraternitatis and the chemical wedding spinning tales of Christian Rosenkreuz, a wanderer who drank deep from Eastern wisdom and founded a hidden order to guide souls to light. You're not chasing gold